Welcome back, everybody. Our next candidate is running for her second term in the Cambridge School Committee. Ayesha Wilson, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome a child of Cambridge, a woman who wears many hats, and a current school committee member, Ayesha Wilson. Hello, Ayesha. How are you?
Hi, Jimmy. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks so much for joining us. So, Ayesha, I must ask you, coming out of the 2020 pandemic and all the stress and all the craziness and all the balls up in the air, especially around the schools, why are you running for a second term at Cambridge School Committee?
Yes, really a loaded question, especially within this pandemic year. But I am deeply embedded in this city. This is my city. Being a kid who grew up in this Cambridge, my whole K to 12 education being here, I have devoted my adult life to working with young people in our city. I am a social worker. I am a union employee, and I'm front facing with young people each and every day. So I want to run. I want to continue to run in service and be a public servant to our young people, because I do believe that Cambridge has what it takes to be a racial equity, anti-racist district that is leading in terms of how we are preparing our young people to be their best selves, and doing it with a community-centered approach as well. So I am running because I love my community. I love our kids. I believe and know that with my skill set, we can do better. And so I look forward to, continuing to do the work.
Great. Now, Ayesha, I'm also a Cambridge kid. I went to the Longfellow, and went to Cambridge Latin. I don't want to date myself, but before they merged with Ringe, okay? But I was wondering, what grammar school did you go to?
Yeah, so I went to the Maynard School from K to 3, and then
Okay.
Kennedy School from 4 to 8, and graduated from CRLS in 2000.
Oh, great, great.
Yeah.
And I imagine you've seen a lot of changes from when you were at the Maynard in whatever 20 years ago, whatever it was. And how do you think we're doing, just speaking in a generational context, from when you were in school to how it is now? Would you see growth, improvements? What do you think?
Well, one thing's for certain. I mean, we have definitely lost the amount of teachers of color that we had when I was a kid and growing up. My K to 3 education at the Maynard School, I had Black teachers and I had a Black principal. And one thing we do know in our schools today, we do have many Black principals, principals of color. And we have many educators of color, but they're spread out across all of our schools. And we need to bring more. We need to recruit, retain, coach, and support more our educators of color so that we can actually bring more in. So that's definitely something that has changed that I see. I am hearing from young people who never get to experience an educator of color, maybe until they hit the high school, if that. And so we definitely need to change. And if we're going to be an anti-racist district, that is a need, that we're really putting some intentional work around how we are recruiting more educators Cambridge is a very attractive city and we pay extremely well.
Right.
So how are we able to bring educators in, attract them to this wonderful district, and retain them for the great skills and supports that we know our educators have and are willing to continue to hone in on?
Mm-hmm. And obviously, tell us, though, why that's important. Why is it important for a child of color to see a teacher of color or a principal of color in their school?
Yeah, but not just a child of color. I mean, all of our students benefit from educators of color. And we know that historically, and research has named it, that by learning and growing from a diverse population of educators really allows for a more nurturing, diversified educational experience, and one that when you see someone who actually does look like you in a space, you want to aspire possibly to be that person.
Mhm.
I know I did when I was a kid. My educators, I was like, oh, I want to be just like you. But it wasn't just my Black educators that I was like, I want to be like you. Definitely many of my white educators too. So I do believe that just as we hone into the skill sets and if we are able to be intentional in the supports, we do have a student body that is 60% students of color. And we have our educators are less than 30% in terms of educators who are front facing with our kids. So we need to improve on those numbers as a whole. And again, that benefit is to everyone, not just a subset of kids.
Right. Tell me what your other priorities are and how you hope to implement them in the Cambridge School Committee. First of all, are you feeling that your work is being effective on the school committee? I assume that you like it. I assume that you feel gratified, but tell me what your priorities are and how has it been going so far?
Well, like is definitely, I mean, it's important work, right? And what I say is it's God's work. And I think being a social worker, being the type of person I am direct, I'm hands-on, I love our kids, and I want to see the best for them. So I do it with my heart. Not a politician. I am in this space as an educator, as a social worker, and just someone who really cares about the future and sustainability of our youth. So I'm leading with that always. I'm leading with my heart always. And I would just say that as a social worker, I'm really proud of bringing 9 new social workers, advocating for more social workers in our schools. And in the last term, this term has yielded 9 new social workers across our district. I think that is remarkable. And I'm really proud of us for being able to do that. And of course, we have more to do. I'm also proud of the work around myself and member Rachel. We co-wrote a policy around making sure that Cambridge Public Schools prioritizes racial equity as a priority. And we did that, right? That was our first priority. And we passed that unanimously. And now we have the building, the Office of Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging. We also have our racial mission and vision statements. And, we're centering our Black and Brown families, students and educators in doing this work as well. So that's been big. What do I plan to do for the next term? Well, I'm going to keep this short and sweet.
Okay.
Because I know the time is ticking. Student wellness and mental health curriculum is critically important. As a social worker, we need to make sure that from K to 12, we have a robust mental health curriculum. Looking into making sure that all of our kids in junior and senior year have some kind of internship experience so that they do have that work experience while they're in school learning, but they're outside and taking advantage of, the innovative mile in our different colleges and universities, but many of our providers that are within our community that our young people may want to gravitate and learn more about those spaces. Co-design, I would like to co-design a one-to-one champion for every child, and that is a tutoring and mentoring support. One thing that we do know through the Building Equity Bridges work is that kids thrive off of relationships. Relationships do matter. And so we want to make sure that that is critically important and upheld. And then universal pre-K and individualized success plans.
Mm-hmm. Universal pre-K is huge, and it's a game changer, isn't it? In terms of how kids come into school.
Yes, and we need the partnership on our city council to make that work. And we need a city manager who cares about that and will really allocate the funds to make that happen. So that's really a hope and goal for this upcoming term.
Mm-hmm. I was asking, when I went to the Longfellow, I went there because I lived in that neighborhood. When you went to Maynard, did you live in that neighborhood?
No, I actually lived all the way across the city in North Cambridge. So I am a North Cambridge girl. I grew up in North Cambridge, but I went to school in the Port. I went to school in East Cambridge, and I went to after school in the Coast. So I am really a well-rounded kid. And the diversity of our whole community, and I made friends and long-lasting relationships through all of those experiences that I am extremely grateful and honored and humble to have.
Mm-hmm. The reason I
appreciate my mom for that. I appreciate my mom for doing that, honestly, because she could have kept me at the Fitzy, and I wasn't. Yeah, we won't talk about the Fitzy.
Okay. Because I was wondering, and it's a longer answer, but I asked. I've been thinking about, the neighborhood schools and the transportation issues that we have in the city, and the congestion and the cross-town travel, and the parents dropping people off, and then the buses, and then the bikes and the trains. I'm thinking, is it possible, or do you see it as a goal or admirable or something to aspire to have schools that are equal in the neighborhoods that people grow up in, so that there's not an academic difference, or there's not a qualitative difference in the education, regardless of which neighborhood you're in?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, one thing that we do know is that our schools across the board need to be schools that all of our parents and our students want to go to. It shouldn't be that there's just a handful of schools that our parents gravitate to the most, right? And that's what's causing the congestion, the traffic, the cross, kids coming from West Cambridge going all the way to East Cambridge, or to, the coast or wherever, right? If all of our schools had this equitable, admirable, influence, parents would be more opting to take their neighborhood schools. And that's the work that we need to do, is making sure that our spaces are equitable across the board, and that they are meeting the needs of all of our students at each school.
Great. So Ayesha, please, a closing statement, please.
Yes.
Tell people where they can reach you on your website. And if you want them to vote for you, tell them what number you want them to vote.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again, Mr. Tingle, for this opportunity to come and talk with you. I am confident, again, my name is Ayesha Wilson. I am running for re-election for the Cambridge School Committee. I am confident that I can win with your support. Please help me sign up, spread the word, knock doors, help me host a meet and greet, whatever the case is. We need to see our children as a whole child. Together, we can empower our schools and inspire our communities. We need a champion for every child, because together we are better. I hope to earn your number one vote on November 2nd or earlier if you decide to vote in early election. You could also reach me at Ayesha at voteayesha.com, my website, which is voteayesha.com, and on all social media platforms at Vote Ayesha. I am so grateful and honored to have had this opportunity. Thank you again, Mr. Tingle, for this time. And thank you to the community. Please vote number one, Ayesha Wilson.
Thank you, Ayesha. Please call me Jimmy. Good luck.
All right, Jimmy. Thank you. I appreciate you, Jimmy.
See you on the trail. Bye-bye.
All right. Appreciate you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.